moment, telling a campaign fundraiser that he hopes the debates don't devolve into an all-out brawl. Really, Joe? If I were you, you might want to focus on figuring out how much coffee you're going to drink the day of the debate, and how you're going to answer a question without a teleprompter. Move it up, please. Guys, move. Okay. Because, of course, Biden has a history of this sort of vicious rhetoric, as other Democrats do. Remember Biden? Take a look.
The press always asks me, don't I wish I were debating him? No, I wish we were in high school, I could take it behind the gym. That's what I wish.
I didn't make a mistake, but they asked me would I like to debate this gentleman. And I said no. I said if we were in high school, I'd take you behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Yeah, so Joe would probably just fall over. By the way, not just Biden. Every corner of this new radical, extreme Democratic Socialist Party, they've been caught spreading nonstop hatred and rage and encouraging, well, what we've been witnessing well over 100 days now. And guess what? Let's just give you a small sample.
Sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honor and our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue with their allies in the Congress of the United States.
You see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd.
They go low, we kick.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
I'll put Mr. Burgess up against Sean Hannity. They'll tear him up.
That's Obama threatening me. Good thing I'm not part of the woke generation. Ask yourself after hearing all this, Democrats sound an awful lot like they're encouraging what we've been witnessing playing out in cities and the streets all across the country. And, of course, denying the reality. What responsibility do these Democrats and Joe Biden have for refusing to condemn the rioting, denying it for months? And now it comes as what, barely there, forgetful Joe and his campaign continue to spin in a million different directions, flipping and flopping and flailing on everything from fracking to the travel ban to policing to violent rioting that he called mostly peaceful, even manufacturing and trade he's lying about. Listen to Biden yesterday talking about support for the failed NAFTA deal that Trump renegotiated, not him and not Barack. And guess what? They didn't do criminal justice reform, they didn't do police reform, they didn't do opportunity zones, and they didn't shatter every record low unemployment for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, women in the workplace, youth unemployment, African American youth unemployment. No, their recovery, let's see, the worst since the 40s, 13 million more Americans on food stamps, 8 million more in poverty, Joe. That's after 8 years. You're his vice president. What have you accomplished in 50 years, Joe? Anyway, take a look.
You renegotiated NAFTA and you didn't, is the point. I mean,
Because we had a Republican Congress that wouldn't go along with us renegotiating it.
but doesn't he deserve some credit for that? It's better. The USMCA is better than NAFTA.
It is better than NAFTA.
Whoops, Trump's better than Biden. Yeah, his plan worked out much better. Ask yourself this. Why is now Biden changing his tune, trying to misdirect voters? It's because, let's see, Biden doesn't actually believe in anything. He is a professional, all-talk, no-action politician, the total embodiment of all things the Washington swamp and sewer. All talk, all promises, gets nothing done. He was vice president for 8 years. I can't think of a single thing that he did in that time to make Americans' lives better. Donald Trump kept all his promises, and the struggles don't stop there, because the ever-slow, forgetful Joe is behind on enthusiasm, behind on policy, and his polls are collapsing after embracing, of course, Bolshevik Bernie socialism and the economy-killing Green New Deal, and his plan goes beyond that, pledging trillions in the new Green Deal. So he's now being forced to try and erase his past positions, rewrite history daily, and the mob and the media, they just ignore it all, pretending like he never said that he was in favor of redirecting funds away from the police and saying the police become the enemy, and trying to pretend that He never said he banned fracking, not once, not twice, but numerous times, and trying to pretend like he's actually accomplished something after being in Washington nearly 50 years. And of course, this show will continue to do the job the mob and the media will never do. Actually tell you the truth, vetting the candidate, Joe Biden, because guess what? Biden already put down his far left wish list. It's on paper in stated promises he made with Bolshevik Bernie himself. The Bolshevik Bernie Biden manifesto released this summer lays out in all the detail you ever want the new extreme radical socialist lawless Democratic Party's plans for your future. 110 pages outlines massive tax increases, trillions in new increases, trillions in new spending for the new Green Deal madness, wide open borders. It's essentially an all-encompassing welfare state where everything basically is free, which means that it'll be funded by you, we, the American people, the taxpayers. Now, these are Biden's stated promises that he's put in writing. The manifesto makes clear that pretty much everything is a human right. Page 17, no one should have to spend more than 30% of their income for housing. Who's going to pay for the rest of that mortgage? That sounds like it was written by Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. The document proves that Biden shares a vision similar to Bolshevik Bernie on health care, establishing a heavily subsidized government-run public option. How did Obamacare work out? Biden also vows to implement a version of this new Green Deal that will go further than Ocasio-Cortez's new Green Deal, and putting Ocasio-Cortez on his climate unity task force and phasing out all fossil fuels in 15 years. That would be the lifeblood of the world's economy. And additionally, Biden wants hundreds of millions in new solar panels. How'd Solyndra work out? Which we know will mean higher energy prices for all businesses and every American. And by the way, we'll now be dependent on outside energy again. And while the plan doesn't explicitly call for dismantling the police, Biden and Bernie, they want a, quote, civilian corps of unarmed first responders. Okay, we're going to send in a psychiatrist into a potentially violent situation, domestic dispute, community policing. What exactly does that mean? And it sounds an awful lot like defunding the police, like he said he'd do. And the Biden-Bernie manifesto also calls for the elimination of cash bail. You know, they did that in New York. Okay, anarchists get arrested, they get sent out the same night to rejoin the activities, which has been a complete disaster, allowing violent criminals back out on the street with zero consequences. They were having bank robberies go on. Guy robs a bank, gets caught, gets let out, goes out, robs another bank, doing it 5-6 times in New York City. Biden claims to care the most about vulnerable communities. His education plan would take away all choice from poor and working families with the worst school districts. For example, he wants to burden charter schools with more government regulation. He makes it clear that school choice programs don't have much of a future in Joe Biden's America. Same guy that didn't want integration of schools because he didn't want his kids going to schools that were, quote, racial jungles. And get this, no standardized testing, because Biden and Bernie, they want to eliminate that too. How do we know how the kids are doing? On immigration, Biden doubling down on open borders, amnesty, the United Sanctuary States of America. He wants to end construction of the border wall, wants to end the president's Remain in Mexico policy, which has reduced asylum fraud to this country and is perhaps the president's greatest first-term policy achievement. In other words, Biden, Kamala Harris, they want us to be the United Sanctuary States of America, just like Kamala's state of California, along with implementing a 100-day moratorium on any deportation. What does it all mean? It means that all of this is a preview of coming attractions. He's telling you what his agenda is. Is America listening? The destructive agenda that Joe Biden is stating and his supporters have put on paper, they're ready to unleash all of this if they win in 53 days. Now, Biden can try and hide it all. The media is certainly doing the work for him, but it's still out there. They still wrote it down on paper. That's still their stated plan. Make no mistake, Biden and Harris, they're ready, they're willing, they're able to surrender to the radicals that are them and their now entire party. And by the way, all of this, you decide in 53 days. Here with reaction, Fox News contributors, Tammy Bruce, Dan Bongino, along with civil rights attorney Leo Terrell. All right, Tammy, They're telling us what they want to do.
Yeah, well, they are, and you should take them seriously, but keep this in mind as well. They will do even more. It will be worse than what they're telling you. What they're telling you is the least that they think they can get away with, to say nothing of the fact that if they're already trying to gaslight the American public with Joe Biden, who's effectively a wax figure, how fake do you think what it is they're telling you is? All of this is, you can't trust Joe Biden. He's reading answers on a teleprompter that he hasn't even really seen himself ahead of time. So we're looking at an America where it's very clear to Democrats and Republicans and independents, if you want the country to look like Seattle and Portland and Los Angeles and New York, vote Democrat. They have also, that is where they've shown you what they will do. That is what they've done to really kind of signal, and perhaps it's subconscious, but that is what existing Democrat leadership in America's great cities is willing to do to its own people who voted them in, single party rule, and that's what they've gotten away with. So you've got to keep that in mind. In the suburbs, women in particular, that this is a dangerous dynamic, not just philosophically, but when it comes to real terms and real violence.
You know, Tammy, you have in common something that Terrell 2.0 has in common. I mean, you come from the pretty radical left. You once sort of I think the president of the National Organization for Women in Los Angeles. Leo, you've been apologizing left and right for buying into Democratic Party lies on Twitter. I don't think you need to apologize anymore. You've finally been Hannitized and Bongino-ized, so you're okay.
Yeah,
but you come from the left also.
Well, I'll tell you this, Sean. You know, when you lay out everything that Donald Trump has done, you talk about the domestic accomplishment. The guy is a foreign policy genius. And the Democrats won't talk about his foreign policy. This guy has brought us peace on a tremendous, important day of 9/11. But let's look at the Democrats. The Democrats right now, Sean, and I think everyone knows, they're trying to keep the economy down. Why? Because it doesn't look good. We have a county health director on tape telling everybody we'll open the schools up after the election. You know what they're trying to do? They're trying to undermine this president. They don't talk about his policy because he gave us the lowest unemployment. He gave us low taxes. He gave us a booming economy, and he's trying to do it right now during the pandemic, and he's successful. And these guys are just trying to make this a personality war. I will assure you of one thing. If the moderators do their job at these debates, the entire nation is going to know that Joe Biden is not strong enough, not fit enough, and more importantly, not knowledgeable enough to run this country like Donald Trump. I should have left the Democratic Party 4 years ago. I wish I had, but I'm glad I left now, and I'm glad I'm on the right team.
You know, Dan Bongino, we have one thing in common too, like Tammy, and we were always right. They just, you know, we welcome them to our family, of course, but there's never been a major political party that has embraced the hardcore left. That's different than any other election. They're stating what they'll do. They always tried to hide what they would want to do.
Yeah, I mean, they tried it with Walter Mondale, who proceeded to lose 49 states. He only won his home state of Minnesota by, 3,000 votes? Reagan destroyed him when they tried this, we're going to hike your taxes. And this is where I think, Sean, in these closing days of the election, I'm a conservative. I'm not a journalist. I'm an opinion maker here on the channel. Obviously, I support the president because he's the conservative candidate. And where I think even I failed a little bit is we use the words about Biden, which are accurate, by the way, radical, extreme agenda, and they're right. Biden may have painted himself as a moderate in the past. He certainly isn't anymore. But I don't think we put meat on the bone and made it really bleed for people, made them feel it. You have to understand what he's going to do to you if elected. Using his words, by the way, not mine. Your taxes will go up. You got a tax cut under President Trump, between 3 and 4 percentage points of your income. He has pledged multiple times to take that away, meaning your take-home pay and your money is going bye-bye. Make it about character, whatever you want. Joe Biden's infamous character is not going to pay your bills. Secondly, if your kids are in a charter school and you like that charter school, you can kiss that charter school bye-bye too. Biden is in the pocket of the teachers' unions. They hate charter schools, and he said it. I'll just throw one more at you. You mentioned, Sean, in your opening, the public option, which he supports. Has anybody really looked at what that is? Oh, it sounds cute. Oh, there'll be a government option. That's terrific. Do you understand what the public option is? It's a Trojan horse to destroy your private health care plan using government subsidies to undercut them. Meaning you like your health care? Well, you can forget about keeping it, just like Obama promised you last time, or Biden will promise you again. That's going right in the garbage. This is going to affect you. Yes, people watching this show tonight, personally. It's going to really hurt you, and I'm sorry to have to tell you that if you choose this guy as the next president.
You got to admit, it's great to welcome Leo. Tammy's been on. Tammy made the conversion years ago, Leo. You're new to our family.
I'm hypnotized.
I always remember Tammy as a conservative, but I remember arguing with Leo on the network.
Okay.
So this is great.
I apologize.
I have video, Dan, of Leo ripping out his earpiece and microphones.
Oh, no, please.
I have video of